The member for Spence.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise to speak on the motion moved by the member for McPherson. It is an important motion indeed, in the sense of the subject matter involved. Foreign interference can come in many forms, many different shapes and sizes. It can be overt, it can be covert. Foreign interference and activities associated with that can complement other forms of espionage and attempts to sow disinformation. Foreign interference can be violent, whether the violence is real or implied. Foreign interference can appear innocuous, benign, done with a smile, but there is nothing benign about it. It can find its way into many facets of Australian society, like our universities, and in turn our R&D, and into important, nationally significant industries. It can infiltrate social media. It can even try to pervert our democratic processes in Australia. This is sadly not something that is entirely unheard of in other parts of the world, and I know we can all point to some very noteworthy examples of this. But, as the emphasis of the member's motion suggests, it can find its way into one of our many vibrant and active multicultural diaspora. The member for McPherson is no stranger to the subject of foreign interference. Being a Minister for Home Affairs in the previous Liberal National Government, the Morrison government, and as we know, he was someone who opted to share that role alongside the member for McPherson for a preponderance of the time she held that office too. But the point I'm ultimately making is that the member for McPherson can appreciate the dangers posed by foreign interference in Australia and the ever-present need to have constant vigilance as a nation. A vigilance that begets our nation's ability to identify and then disrupt a foreign government or those acting at the behest of one, from conducting activities that threaten our sovereignty and threaten not just the safety of people in the multitude of Australia's multicultural communities, but also attempt to impede them from conducting themselves in a manner that anyone in Australia would expect themselves to have every right to do so, such as participating in free political discourse. I note the member for McPherson's motion gives particular reference to Australia's proud Cambodian diaspora. Australia is home to thousands of people whose country of birth was Cambodia, with many more descendants in the generations after their arrival. Their community exists across the country, but with many concentrated pockets. I take it as a mark of pride that a vast number reside in my electorate of Spence and in South Australia. I know that I am richer for the many engagements I've had with this community in the relatively short space of time I've been their representative in the Parliament of Australia. The community has definitely come a long way since the first 6 Cambodian refugees arrived in my home state, all the way back in 1976. To those unfamiliar with Cambodian contemporary history, one might instead be familiar with the recent events within the country, namely their elections that were held on the 23rd of this month. Given that Hun Sen's Cambodian People's Party have gone so far as to ban opposition parties from even participating in what they would call a democratic election, to claiming legitimacy of elections results that had them win 125 of 125 seats in their National Assembly in 2018 and 120 of them at the recent election. Without an opposition at home, some governments may begin to turn to eliminate any opposition that may exist to their regimes in other countries. This is not something that we, as a nation, should tolerate happening within our own backyard. Those in Cambodian community within Australia or any given multicultural community in Australia, for that matter, they should expect that they can participate within their communities in this country and with the community at large without fear of foreign government monitoring and surveilling their movements, who they associate with, their written, verbal and digital communications. Acts like this have a chilling effect and are bad enough when they happen abroad, but we must not tolerate it happening within our borders. Earlier this year, I had the pleasure of attending a speech delivered by the Minister for Home Affairs at the ANU on foreign interference, and it is something we should all have on our radars. But it gives me comfort knowing that it is something acutely on the radar of our government. Through the agencies that comprise our national intelligence community, with state and territory law enforcement agencies and bodies such as the Counter Foreign Interference Task Force, we can combat corrosive foreign interference activities, but that isn't the whole of it. Fostering an environment where members of our multicultural diaspora can safely and comfortably communicate with agencies to report their suspicions of foreign interference activities goes a long way to it occurring in the shadows. Our multicultural communities make Australia the amazing place that it is today, and any attempt from abroad to pervert that should not be without consequence. Thank the House.